Everyone yields. Mr. Babin is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank
for
you very
questions.
much. Thank you for coming to the Hill today, Mr. Secretary. In 2023, the state of Texas received less than 2% of all DOT federal grant awards, despite having contributed over 10% of the funding to the Highway Trust Fund. Is Department of Transportation making any attempts to be more equitable in their distribution of federal grants across the states?
Thank you, Congressman. We pay close attention to the importance of geographic distribution as one of the considerations in our competitive programs. Of course, each program has its own criteria. Project proposals are evaluated based on how they score against their criteria. Certainly a number of some of the most compelling projects we've been able to support have been in Texas. We recently were able to award $25 million to the Port of Houston Authority, for example, out of our reduction of truck emission at port facilities program. This is over and above the formula dollars. But one other commitment we have is if a project comes in, they don't quite make the cut because it's an extremely competitive round, we will work with that project sponsor to help them put their best foot forward coming around next time.
Thank you. Why did DOT release notices of funding opportunities, or NOFOs, for federal grants such as MEGA, Rural, and Infra for fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26, while we're still in fiscal year 24? And should not these grants be awarded in their respective fiscal years rather than potentially circumventing a new administration?
The short answer is in order to cut red tape. While there are some programs that are administered on such a routine basis that it makes sense to have an annual process and run it again every year, we think in other cases by folding in either multiple programs, multiple fiscal years, or both, in the same way that a common application for college means you don't have to fill your zip code in 7 different times, we can reduce the amount of bureaucracy for project sponsors and the amount of processing work for our own team as we're working through that.
What steps has USDOT taken to address the issue of grant agreements between USDOT and federal discretionary grant awardees that are taking more than a year to complete? And how can we expedite these agreements to ensure a timely disbursement of funding to the award recipients?
This is a topic that I'm very focused on right now, both in recent years and in the prior administration. It was not always considered unusual for it to take more than a year to get from an award announcement to a grant agreement. We think compressing that amount of time is part of what it'll take to deliver projects more quickly. Part of the challenge, of course, is that a grant agreement can only certify that a project meets federal requirements if it's actually true. But I want to make sure we take some responsibility for a project sponsor working through that process rather than just folding our arms and saying, you know, we're not going to sign off until you do everything on your own. So I can assure you we talk about this just about every week and are taking a number of steps that we think will help compress that process.
International freight movement continues to increase at incredible rates, and in Texas, our state agencies, including the Texas Department of Transportation and our Department of Public Safety, are working with autonomous vehicle industry to make border crossings seamless, effective, and efficient while ensuring illegals are not coming across the border. What national support and funding enhancements specifically to the border region will be proposed to accommodate the increase in freight coming from Mexico into the United States and passing through to Canada?
As you note, there is a strong and swiftly growing demand and flow of goods across that border, and it's going to be more important than ever to make sure it is safe and secure and at the same time that it flows efficiently. Several of our grant awards have gone to modernizing land ports of entry in ways that we think will help them efficiently do so. And our Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is very focused on making sure that inspection capacities keep with the times. Would certainly welcome an opportunity to work with Congress on any authorities or resources that might help us take advantage of those new technologies.
All right, and one last final question. Perhaps you read the editorial in last weekend's Wall Street Journal entitled "Biden's LNG Export Pause Hits Ukraine," and I have a copy of it here, which I'd like to enter into the record, Madam Chairman, that decried the Biden administration's decision to block LNG exports to our allies. This article specifying Ukraine, and this which seemingly plays right into the hands of Vladimir Putin. Secretary Buttigieg, you have responsibility in your department for the Deepwater Port Act, which would improve our nation's ability to export energy products around the world. However, I understand that your department is not implementing the statutory deadlines and notices imposed by last year's NDAA, and is not having regular or any in-person meetings with applicants so they can possibly understand the agency's concern. I've heard so much runaround, and I'd just like to know what the truth is, if you can.
I can assure you our Maritime Administration team works diligently on applications that come through. They are not subject to the restrictions that were cited in that article that are more on the Department of Energy side. We'd be happy to provide you an update on the status of some of the pending applications.
Great, thank you, and I yield back out of time.